Hello and welcome back to this series of videos on learning support for autistic children and young people. And thank you for visiting the North Somerset Educational Psychology Service Training Library. Today we're going to look at some practical top tips for learning support, and in particular we're going to focus on specific activities we can use in secondary schools and post-16 settings to help autistic students develop skills that will help them to learn. Rather than talking about how to do long multiplication or how to write up a science experiment, we're looking at the underlying skills which help students develop specific academic skills. We might call these underlying skills skills for learning. If you enjoy this video, please also watch our video on creating autism-aware learning environments for young people with social communication difficulties and autism. Also, don't forget to check out our resources page at the EPS Training Library, which features links to all the resources we mention here, plus examples of further training. Before we look at some specific games and activities, let's start by considering which types of skills autistic young people tend to struggle with in the classroom. And these are executive functioning and social cognition. Executive functioning refers to skills which help us manage our time and attention and organization. This includes skills like organizing our time and materials, maintaining our focus on a single task at a time, planning the steps involved in a task, prioritizing which bits are most important, monitoring our progress, and thinking flexibly. Social cognition refers to our understanding of other people, including predicting their behavior, what they might be thinking or feeling, and knowing how we can join in with them in group tasks. So let's take a closer look at executive functioning and some of the activities we can use to develop young people's executive functioning skills. Firstly, let's consider how we can help students in secondary schools and post-16 settings develop their ability to plan, prioritize, and think flexibly. Well, we can do this using a range of strategy games. We can play these games one-to-one with students or encourage them to play in pairs or small groups. Sometimes, competitive games are stressful for students and can actively harm their friendships, so it's useful to also offer cooperative strategy games, for example, popular board games like Pandemic or The Mind. Alternatively, we might install simulation games on school computers or tablets, which allow students to play solo, simulating business projects or construction projects and carefully planning each phase of the process. The reason that strategy games can be so helpful within daily or weekly routines is that the skills they allow students to rehearse apply to so many real-life situations, including situations we encounter as adolescents as well as adults. It might be possible at our school to offer a lunchtime or after-school chess club, for example. Next, we can help young people with social communication difficulties develop their organization and time management skills using daily and weekly organization challenges. A very common method for this is providing students with personal planners or checklists. We want to support a gradual increase in their independence using planning tools, so we might start by filling out, say, all the materials they will need for food tech lessons and asking them to tick each box before gradually asking them to write their own checklists. We might even ask autistic students to prepare a presentation for their classmates. Planning the content, rehearsing, and sticking to timings is all great practice for a young person's organizational skills. Similarly, we might use team building activities to develop organization skills. There are hundreds of team building ideas online, and their essence is that they require participants to organize the materials they need, the order they will complete different steps in, and the different roles required for the task. Finally, let's consider some activities which help autistic students monitor their own progress within learning activities, and these are what we might call self-awareness activities. A common example of this is giving students time to complete a daily journal or diary. In particular, we might ask students with social communication difficulties to focus on their feelings before, during, and after different activities inside and outside of school. Once a student is able to recognize and label their own emotions, particularly with big emotions like nervousness or anger, we might ask the student to link their feelings to a calming strategy like mindfulness or biofeedback exercises, of which there are loads of examples online. If we have the time, a really powerful self-awareness activity that we can try is reviewing video clips of student interactions, a process that is sometimes called video interaction guidance. With students' consent, we record them during interactions with others, for example when playing a board game or completing a team building task. We then watch the video back, commenting on the non-verbal skills that the student is using and asking them to consider alternative ways of interacting. And now let's look at some games and activities which help young people develop social cognition skills. For example, their ability to understand and predict other people's responses and to work out how to join in with other people successfully. Firstly, we might want to use some emotional literacy games, which are focused on developing students' awareness of emotions in themselves and other people. Any activity which requires students with social communication difficulties to make connections between thoughts, feelings, and behavior can help develop their social cognition skills. This includes emotional recognition games and labeling activities such as emotions bingo, role-playing, and improvisation games. We can also use social stories to explain how other people are likely to feel in response to our words and behavior. And social stories can be especially useful for autistic young people because they are highly visual, tend to use simpler language, and can be custom made for a variety of real life situations using free online tools for building social stories. A board game called Moods is particularly focused on developing emotional literacy. It involves the players reading out phrases with a particular emotion or mood and then asking other players to guess which emotion they were trying to convey. It allows participants to experience both expressing emotions themselves and interpreting the emotions of others. Next, we have activities which can develop autistic students' knowledge of how to participate in group games. Some of these are classic activities like team sports or the team building games we mentioned earlier. But we might also want to think about teamwork tasks which encourage empathy with others. For example, asking students to put themselves in the shoes of their fellow community members and consider what they would find helpful. Community service activities like communal gardening or volunteering with care homes or primary schools are great examples of these sorts of activities which help students develop their sense of citizenship. Anytime we are giving students with ASC an opportunity to work with their peers towards a common goal, we are helping them develop their awareness of group roles, rules, and expectations. Although many students learn these skills intuitively, those with social communication difficulties and autism require them to be taught specifically, for example by taking part in a social skills group based around a common interest such as Lego. So in summary, there are lots of activities we can build into timetables for autistic students in secondary schools and post-16 settings which help them develop skills for learning. The strategy games, organisation challenges, self-awareness, emotional literacy, and teamwork activities we've mentioned in this video are either low cost or completely free, and they require no specific training to deliver. And when we build these activities into our daily and weekly routines, whether young people are completing them solo, we are doing them one-to-one, in small groups, or as whole classes, we are helping autistic students develop skills they need for lifelong learning. Thank you for listening, and we hope you found this video series useful and relevant to your role.